For 365 days, the arena felt quiet. It wasn't a physical silence, of course. The crowd still roared, the pyrotechnics still exploded, the matches still happened. But there was an echo. A hollow space where a true champion used to stand. The women's division had a leader, a dominant, arrogant force named Jezebel. But she wasn't the true champion. She was just the one who was left. The fans never forgot the night the echo began. They never forgot the sound of the steel chair, not just hitting but crushing. They never forgot the sight of their hero, Athena, clutching a knee that was bent in a direction a human knee should never go. And they never, ever forgot the sight of Jezebel, her former best friend, holding the championship high, laughing as Athena was stretchered away, her career seemingly over. Jezebel built her entire reign on that single moment of betrayal. She called herself the architect of the end. She mocked Athena's memory, wore t-shirts depicting the injury, and told the world that the old era was dead. The fans booed, they raged, but eventually they just accepted it. Acceptance is the final stage of grief, after all. Athena was gone. She wasn't posting on social media. She wasn't doing interviews. She had vanished from the earth, leaving only the hollow space and the arrogant, undeserving champion who had taken her place. The division moved on. The world moved on. But the real fans, they never stopped waiting. The main event of the grandest stage was, by all accounts, a predictable affair. Jezebel, the dominant champion, was defending her title against Mia, a young, hopeful underdog who had scratched and clawed her way to this moment. Mia had heart. The crowd loved her, but nobody truly believed she could win. Jezebel was too smart, too ruthless, too willing to break the rules. And that's exactly what happened. After 20 minutes of a grueling, one-sided battle, Mia had a sudden surge. She hit her finisher. The crowd of 80,000 people jumped to their feet. 1, 2, and Jezebel's foot was on the rope, placed there by her ringside enforcer. The referee, distracted, didn't see it. While he argued, Jezebel hit Mia with the championship belt. She covered her for the simple, anticlimactic 3 count. The bell rang. The crowd deflated. A sea of boos rained down as Jezebel grabbed the microphone, her laugh echoing through the stadium. "Is this all you have?" she screamed. "Is there no one left?" She held the title high. Confetti fell from the ceiling, a celebration for a victory nobody wanted. The show was going off the air. The announcers were signing off. Fans were already heading for the exits, disgusted, disappointed. The match, they thought, was over. The story was over. Another year of an unbeatable, unlikable champion. It was finished. But then, the lights went out. A single sound cut through the darkness. A low, distorted bass line. The signature opening note of a theme song nobody had heard in a year. The stadium didn't cheer. It gasped. 80,000 people taking one simultaneous breath. Then, the lights went red. Not the bright, celebratory red of the pyros. This was a deep, angry, pulsating crimson, bathing the entire arena in the color of a warning. In the center of the ring, Jezebel, who had been laughing moments before, froze. Her face, illuminated by the red glow, went pale. She knew that sound. Boom! The pyros exploded on the stage. A wall of fire and smoke. And when the smoke cleared, a silhouette stood there. The energy in the arena didn't just change, it inverted. The deflation, the anger, the disappointment, it all vanished, sucked into a vacuum and replaced by a single deafening roar of pure, unadulterated hope. It was a sound of disbelief, a sound of validation. She was back. Athena. She didn't look the same. The bright colors were gone, replaced by tactical black. Her hair was pulled back tight. She wasn't smiling. She looked harder, colder. She looked at Jezebel, who was now scrambling backward, clutching the title to her chest. Athena didn't move. She just stared from the top of the ramp. The crowd was losing its mind. people hugging, crying, screaming. But Athena was perfectly, terrifyingly still. The message was clear. The celebration was over. The hunt had just begun. Athena didn't run to the ring. She didn't sprint, fueled by adrenaline. She walked. Each step was deliberate, measured, rhythmic. The walk of a predator that knows its prey is trapped. The 80,000-strong crowd provided the soundtrack, a continuous wave of noise that shook the cameras. Jezebel, the arrogant, untouchable champion, was completely undone. She was hyperventilating, holding the title belt not as a trophy, but as a shield. She looked at her enforcer at ringside, pleading. But the enforcer just slowly backed away, hands raised, wanting no part of this. Athena stepped through the ropes. The red light faded, replaced by the stark, bright white of the arena lights, revealing the scar that ran across her rebuilt knee. She didn't look at the crowd. She didn't play to the cameras. Her eyes were locked on Jezebel, who was now trapped in the corner. The arena was waiting for the explosion, for the spear, for the fight. Instead, Athena just stood there. She slowly raised one hand, not to strike, but and pointed one finger. She pointed past Jezebel. She pointed at the giant, illuminated WrestleMania sign hanging from the rafters. It was not a threat. It was a promise, a one-year-in-the-making appointment for a reckoning. Athena then looked down at Mia, the young challenger who was still recovering from the belt shot. Gently, Athena helped her to her feet and raised Mia's arm, a small nod of respect. Then, her point made, she turned, slid out of the ring, and walked back up the ramp, vanishing into the darkness as her theme music faded, leaving a terrified champion and a world that had just been turned upside down. The post-show press conference was chaos. It was supposed to be a victory lap for the executives, a celebration of a successful weekend. Instead, every single reporter in the room, from major sports networks to niche wrestling blogs, was asking only one question. Where is Athena? The company officials deflected. They smiled. They used corporate speak. They said they were just as surprised as the fans. But the tension was real. This wasn't a planned marketing stunt. This was a rogue element returning to the board. Then 45 minutes into the presser, the back door opened. Silence fell. Athena walked in, still in her gear, and sat down at the table. The flashbulbs were blinding. The questions were a tidal wave. Athena, where have you been for a year? Are you medically cleared to compete? What was the meaning of your message to Jezebel? Athena just sat there, letting the chaos swirl around her. She picked up a bottle of water, took a slow, deliberate sip. The room waited. She leaned into the microphone. Rehabilitation is a long, dark road, she said, her voice quiet, but carrying an edge they'd never heard before. You spend 12 months rebuilding the bone, rebuilding the muscle, rebuilding the ligaments. She paused, looking directly into the main camera. But you never have to rebuild the anger. That just gets stronger. It just focuses. I am not cleared to compete. I am cleared to fight. As for Jezebel, she didn't just take my title. She took a year of my life. And I am coming to collect the debt. She stood up and walked out. The media room was left in stunned silence. The hurricane had made landfall. The ripple effect backstage was immediate and profound. The locker room, once united under Jezebel's fearful leadership, was now split clean in two. On one side, you had Jezebel's faction, the enforcers, the sycophants, the other champions who benefited from her reign. They were loud, they were obnoxious. They tried to project confidence, telling interviewers that Athena was damaged goods and living in the past. But their eyes darted nervously down the hallways. They traveled in packs, suddenly unwilling to be alone. Their bravado was a thin mask for a very real, very new fear. On the other side were the quiet ones, the veterans, the old guard who had respected Athena, who had been pushed aside by Jezebel's regime. They didn't celebrate. They didn't cheer. They just watched. They saw Athena in the training room, hours after her return, methodically wrapping her own knee, her movements precise, almost ritualistic. Her old mentor, a retired legend now working as a producer, found her there. He didn't congratulate her. He just sat beside her. "That was quite the entrance, kid," he said. Athena didn't look up. It was a message. "I know what it was," the mentor said, his voice low. "I've seen that look before. I saw it in the mirror, once upon a time. You're not just here for the title, are you?" Athena finally stopped, her hands still. "Be careful," he warned. "Revenge is a fire that warms you, and then it burns you, and then it turns you into someone you don't recognize. Don't lose yourself just to prove a point." Athena looked at him, her eyes cold. "I was already lost. This is the only thing that feels like finding my way back." Jezebel was no longer a champion. She was a ghost. In the weeks that followed, the dominant, mocking, arrogant ruler of the women's division simply ceased to exist. In her place was a paranoid, frantic, and desperate woman. She would arrive at arenas and demand her locker room be searched. She flinched at loud noises, believing every sound was the beginning of Athena's theme music. She surrounded herself with security, but it didn't help. Because Athena wasn't attacking her. That was the genius of the strategy. Athena was everywhere except where Jezebel was. When Jezebel was in the ring cutting a promo, Athena would appear on the Titantron, silently watching from a dark corner of the rafters. When Jezebel was in a tag team match, the lights would flicker red, causing her to panic and abandon her partner. Athena was dismantling her, piece by piece, without laying a finger on her. She was using the one weapon Jezebel couldn't defend against: her own guilt. Jezebel's promos became unhinged. She would scream at the crowd, justifying her actions from a year ago. "She was weak," Jezebel would cry, her voice cracking. "I did what I had to do. I was the future. I am the future." But the crowd just chanted Athena's name. Jezebel was no longer fighting an opponent. She was fighting a memory. She was fighting the consequences of her own choices. And for the first time in her career, the champion, the woman who had broken everyone, was now visibly, publicly, and completely broken herself. While the champion was falling apart, the challenger was building herself. The public only saw the mind games, the cryptic appearances, the cold stares. But the internal cameras, the behind-the-scenes footage, showed something else entirely. It showed the work. Athena was not the same athlete she was a year ago. The high-flying, fast-paced, risk-taking style was gone. The injury had taken that from her. She could no longer rely on her athletic gifts, so she had replaced them. We see a montage, not of spectacular flips, but of brutal repetition. Minimalist animation, a stick figure striking a heavy bag, again and again. We see her in a meditation room, her breathing steady, her eyes closed, learning to control the very rage that was fueling her. Her new style was grounded. It was methodical. It was based on submissions, on leverage, on a deep, painful understanding of human anatomy. She had learned how to take a person apart, systematically, just as she had been taken apart. The fans connected to this in a way they never had before. She wasn't a superhero anymore. She was a survivor. She was a symbol for anyone who had been broken by betrayal, who had been told they were finished. She wasn't just training for a match. She was preparing for a war, and she was doing it with a cold, terrifying patience. She was no longer the people's champion. She was the people's vengeance. And the date of her appointment was drawing near. WrestleMania, the main event. The entire stadium was a sea of tension. It wasn't the excited energy of a normal main event. It was the heavy, thick silence of an execution. The bell rang. It was not a match. It was a mugging. Jezebel, desperate, attacked Athena with a flurry of strikes. But they were panicked, sloppy. Athena, calm and centered, weathered the storm. She didn't strike back. She just absorbed it. Then she took over. It was clinical. Athena targeted Jezebel's arm, then her leg. It was a systematic deconstruction. The crowd wasn't cheering, it was wincing. This wasn't the cathartic release they expected. This was uncomfortable. This was cruel. Jezebel, broken and beaten, scrambled out of the ring, her reign, her pride, all of it gone. She grabbed a steel chair from under the ring, the same steel chair from a year ago. The crowd roared, demanding she use it. But Jezebel was crying. She swung it wildly. Athena caught it. She ripped the chair from Jezebel's hands. The stadium was on its feet, demanding the final act of revenge. "Use it!" they screamed. "Finish it!" Athena looked at the chair. She looked at the pathetic, beaten figure of Jezebel. She looked at the crowd, howling for blood, and a strange look crossed her face. It wasn't anger. It wasn't triumph. It was pity. She tossed the chair aside. She dragged Jezebel back into the ring, locked in her new submission hold. Jezebel tapped out in seconds. The bell rang. Athena had won. The title was hers. The crowd exploded. The long, painful story was over. The hero had won. The tyrant was vanquished. Athena was handed the championship, the gold she had been robbed of a year prior. She held it up. The pyros went off. But Athena didn't smile. She looked down at the title, her expression unreadable. She then looked at Jezebel, who was sobbing in the corner. Athena walked over, leaned in close, and whispered something in her ear. We couldn't hear it. Jezebel's eyes went wide, a look not of fear, but of understanding. Athena then stood, left the championship title in the center of the ring, and walked away. She didn't look back. The show ended with the world's most confusing image, a new champion abandoning her prize. Weeks later, a documentary special aired. It was just Athena, sitting in an empty arena. "Everyone thought I came back for her," she said to the camera. "They thought I came back for the title. They wanted revenge. I thought I wanted revenge." She paused, rubbing the scar on her knee. "But when I got there, when I had her beaten, I realized the truth." We flash back to the moment. We finally hear the whisper. Athena leans in and says, "Thank you." "Jezebel didn't end me," Athena explained to the camera. "She saved me. I was trapped. I was a prisoner to the crowd, to the title, to the person I was supposed to be. That injury, it set me free. It forced me to find out who I really was. Without all of this. The revenge wasn't for Jezebel. The comeback wasn't for the fans. The entire year-long journey was a test. It was Athena proving to herself that the anger didn't own her, that she could walk through the fire, reclaim what was hers, and be strong enough to let it go. The final shot is her, walking out of the arena, not as a champion, but just as a person. She had finally won the only fight that ever mattered.